Hi everyone, I'm Sahar Golestani, Head of Platforms Product Marketing at Google and a fellow member of the Modern Computing Alliance's team. I'm thrilled to be welcoming you to The Future is Flexible. In just a few moments, our friends and partners at Accenture will take us through the findings of our 2021 Future of Tech Leadership Survey results, and I promise you it's worth a watch. Before we dive in, I'd like to personally thank every member of the IT Council who participated in Accenture's survey and contributed to the valuable data we've shared today. With that, I'll pass things over to Stephanie at Accenture.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie Gorski, and I'm a partner at Accenture. My team and I have enjoyed supporting the Modern Computing Alliance on this project. We are excited to share with you today The Future is Flexible, a video share out of our 2021 study focused on emerging trends and the current state of IT. Before we jump into the findings, I would like to share with you a little bit about the people and the organizations behind the data. We surveyed more than 300 technology decision makers across the United States. About half are enterprises and the other half small and medium-sized businesses across all different verticals. We heard from both line of business and IT buyers at every level, managers to C-suite executives. Today, we're going to dive into what these buyers told us, one insight at a time. The first insight, pace of change has accelerated fast, and there is no turning back. This might sound obvious, but there's a little more to it than you would expect. It's important to remember that while COVID has certainly catapulted us into a new pace of change, there is a very strong wave of transformation that was building pre-pandemic. It was just building a lot slower. In fact, remote work had been on the rise for the last decade in the United States. It increased 173% between 2005 and 2018. And then when COVID hit, it accelerated 2 to 6 times that amount. 85% of businesses adopted digital communications and collaboration tools sooner than they had ever expected. 40% of businesses invested in productivity management, remote monitoring, training, all to support remote work. Investments to cloud also increased threefold. These unprecedented investments enabled work from home capabilities companies so desperately needed in the moment. And our findings show that this new agility isn't really over. It's really, truly just the beginning. The world's largest remote work experiment was more successful than anyone ever expected. Specifically, 83% of employers call it a success. And almost half of employees say they were more productive throughout this time than they've ever been in the office. Now that employers and employees see how great working from home can be, they don't want to go back to the way things were before. At the beginning of the pandemic, 30% of employees said they wanted to return to the office the way things were before. That number has dwindled down to 4%. Trends show over half of employees want flexibility going forward, with the option to work remotely at least 3 days a week. And with technology decision makers expecting on average 30 to 40% of their workforce to be remote in the next few years, those employees may get exactly their wish. Meanwhile, 15% of companies are so pleased with how this has worked that they never want to go back and they will stay remote forever. And even if they don't stay fully remote forever, the vast majority of companies expect a third of their workforce to be remote in the next few years. Information workers, who typically have desk jobs, have the highest likelihood of being remote, which isn't really surprising. But it is interesting to see the projections for contact center workers and frontline workers. They really aren't that far behind. Check it out. 34% of contact center workers are expected to be remote in the next few years. Other data supports this as well. Our survey tells us that half of companies, both enterprises and SMBs, are looking to enable work from any device. And it's not just the digitally advanced companies that are doing this. It's companies at every stage of digital maturity who are enabling everyone from desk workers to frontline workers to truly be virtual. Another remote work study from 2021 shows that 7 in 10 executives plan to invest in new collaboration tools and an IT infrastructure that secures connectivity. And about half are also investing in tools and apps that change the in-office work environment, likely to truly focus on increasing that collaboration and the equity between people who are in office and working remote. Looking at the data, there are 2 things that are immediately clear. 1, business and technology leaders can be and really should be proud of the progress they have made during COVID. And number 2, they absolutely cannot afford to be complacent. With all the emerging technologies and trends, business leaders' priorities are definitely evolving. I'm going to pass the mic to my friend and colleague, Vivian Chan, to discuss more about what really matters to IT and technology decision makers. Vivian, over to you.
That was great, Stephanie. Thank you for setting up this context of this pace of change and really setting the backdrop for why technology decision makers are facing the challenges they are and what they're prioritizing today. So when we explored what excited them or kept tech executives up at night, what matters to them, like decision makers like yourself, might actually surprise you. First, our survey results make it very clear that technology and business strategy are becoming more intertwined than ever. There's been a dramatic shift in perception from tech playing an auxiliary role to now taking center stage as an inseparable component of business strategy. In fact, 77% of business leaders agree that technology is becoming critical to their company's overall business success. And 89% believe their ability to generate business value hinges on their technology. Leaders understand their best bet to manage volatility is to invest in flexibility. We've observed companies that proactively invest in technological agility allows for this flexibility to weather and even capitalize on major disruptions. And technological agility pays off. There is a striking 2 to 3x difference in performance between digital stragglers and digital leaders, what we define as the top 10% that embed technology into their business strategy and use tech more effectively. But that's not all. This digital achievement gap widened even more during the pandemic with all the rapid changes and challenges that came along with it. Digital leaders are now outperforming stragglers by a factor of 5x. So if this is true, why isn't everybody investing in these technologies today? We know the reality is legacy solutions hold businesses back. Organizations are encumbered by these legacy solutions that take a lot of focus and attention and ultimately leave less time for exploring new tech and innovative applications. 40% of digital leaders build this habit of exploring new technology as a tool to drive innovation in customer and employee experiences. The last point to explain this digital achievement gap is looking at how digital leaders are able to pivot their strategies very quickly. At the onset of COVID, they had to enable their workforce to stay productive in remote and secure ways. And so we see this manifest in a remarkable 25-point collaboration advantage. This created a flywheel effect of more engaged employees that can maintain the sense of community and productivity despite their work environment completely being turned upside down. These organizations benefited from the creativity of their people to not just keep afloat, but also to continue innovating. So now let's talk about the roles that actually influence and make technology purchase decisions. On the left, we have the traditional IT role and the products they have direct influence over. And on the right, line of business executives. We see very clear difference influence by job role. IT decision makers are much more focused on advanced back-end technology solutions such as cloud, business planning software, EMM, whereas line of business we're more likely to have direct influence over employee-facing solutions such as devices, productivity, and operating system. If you take a minute to guess where these decision makers have called out as their top challenges or priorities, it probably is no surprise that security ranks very high on the list. In fact, security is the number one top challenge by a long shot, with 52% ranking it as number one. When we see this and think about the solution evaluation criteria, you might think security comes on top again. Yet somehow, threat prevention didn't even make it to the top 4 evaluation factors. And instead, we see total cost of ownership reigning supreme, despite ranking 2nd and 5th on challenges and priorities, respectively, on the previous slide. This contradiction, where security is your top challenge and the top priority, yet not making it into your evaluation criteria, is a good reminder to reflect on how your organization may be evaluating tech solutions today and perhaps refining the thinking to reflect longer-term strategic priorities to minimize risk and address challenges around threat prevention and security. Lastly, we want to flag the increasing influence employees have on tech decisions. A quarter of all surveyed companies cited keeping up with employee demands as a top challenge, a trend much more pronounced among enterprises versus SMBs, among the more digitally advanced, and in verticals such as professional services or TMT with significant information worker populations. We found that when we asked about priorities, employee satisfaction again rose to the top as number 3 most important priority, behind only security and productivity. It's not too surprising in a very competitive job market, but we see an increased focus on addressing employee needs with automation and tools to keep them enabled and satisfied. Especially true among the enterprise, especially true again in verticals with a significant population of information workers, where there's a war for top talent, both to attract them and retain them. We hope these details on technology decision maker priorities and challenges really resonated with you. And we hope it reiterated the need for flexibility and technical architecture agility. I'm going to now hand it over to my colleague, Caroline, who's going to talk us through some ideas for future-proofing your business.
Thanks, Vivian. With technology being so closely tied to business strategy, companies are seeking technology architectures that are as unique as they are. And they need them to be able to evolve and adapt as their strategies do. Which brings me to our third insight. Businesses need a tech solution that is ready for tomorrow, today. As members of the Modern Computing Alliance IT Council put it, it's about leveraging the technology that best meets your company's needs and helps you to be both forward-thinking and future-proof. So you're propelling your people and your company forward rather than holding them back. And we're seeing that businesses are now embracing this idea of modern computing and more actively seeking best-in-breed solutions that better meet their company's current and future needs. When we say best-in-breed, we're talking about technology stack strategies where decision makers prioritize choosing individual technology product leaders with superior functionality, user experience, and flexibility, rather than simply going with a single vendor technology stack. Their investments in these best-in-breed solutions are highly influenced by 3 key factors: differentiated functionality, improved IT manageability, and easy-to-use capabilities. Unsurprisingly, functionality is the number 1 driver for pivoting to best-in-breed solutions. However, when it comes to choosing individual vendors, it's table stakes, suggesting it's a best-in-breed driver, but not a vendor-level differentiator. And maximizing the employee experience is top of mind for many decision makers, as increasing productivity and ease of use is a consistently top priority. We found that 59% of companies agree that IT manageability is essential when adopting new individual technology solutions outside of their single vendor stack. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance of management simplicity, as a large majority of business leaders won't adopt new solutions unless they offer easier, simpler IT management. That being said, as we stressed earlier, every organization is different. So be sure to think about what's most important to you and your employees. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to the Google team and the Modern Computing Alliance.
Thank you so much, Caroline, Vivian, and Stephanie. It's been really great working with you. The research you've conducted is so very important, and I know that our executive teams of the Modern Computing Alliance are actually already using it to help us make decisions about the future roadmap of our collaboration together. The Alliance is made up of leaders from innovative companies including Citrix, Dell, HP, Box, Intel, VMware, and Google, all working together to move the technology industry forward towards a more open ecosystem that gives you the freedom of choice with integrations across the stack. The findings you shared today confirm we're on the right track, which brings us to the next and final insight. Now is the time to take charge and create the flexibility your business needs for the future. There's an urgent need for companies to act and establish the technology architecture that provides the agility you need to meet the ever-changing needs of your business. Our goal is to help you stay ahead of the accelerating change with 4 tips to consider in the future. The first is to evaluate your agility and how well you can respond. Do your technology investments in modern computing match your competitors? Identify key gaps that may exist and address them so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Tip 2 is to look at your technology stack and business strategy. Are you aligning your stack to your strategy or the other way around? Identifying places where you can help your strategy shine by selecting best of breed is the key to success. To build on that, you can be the glue that brings your business and technology leaders together and invest in relationships that generate collaboration across your organization. This is crucial. Last but not least, I encourage you to join the Modern Computing Alliance's IT Council to make sure you have a voice in the conversation that is reshaping our technology landscape. The IT Council gives innovative professionals an opportunity to network with forward-thinking leaders and organizations while weighing in on the impact to priorities and what happens next in B2B computing. Everyone at the Modern Computing Alliance is listening to your voice, and we want to make sure it's heard. On that note, I'd like to personally thank the many members of our IT Council who have already contributed so much and participated in Accenture's survey to get the valuable data we were able to share with you today. Your input has been invaluable, and we look forward to working with you in the coming few months.